Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Pro Tip Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Yocom, and we got a great show for you today. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe to our channel and share them with your friends. You can check us out at youtube.com/at Pro Tip Podcast or facebook.com/the Pro Tip Podcast. You can also check us out on Instagram. And we got a great show for you today. We got my friend, my chiropractor, Dr. Bill Moss from Keystone Specific Chiropractic.
Awesome.
Welcome to the show, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
Oh,
I'm
man.
excited to be here.
We're excited to have you here. So you're based in Wyomissing.
Yeah.
Okay. And before we jump right in, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you have a beautiful family and...
Yeah, I have. I've been married almost 20 years now. We live in the house.
Would you get married when you're like 8?
I know.
You look so young, dude.
I know. I feel like because I have a 9-month-old, I have a 6-year-old daughter, 9-month-old son, 2 dogs, and I don't live too far from you. I live a couple miles down the road in Douglasville. And now it's nice because a couple years ago when I'd tell people about my accomplishments, they'd always guess my age as being a lot older. But now that I have a 9-month-old, they just like you have to be younger to have a child that young. So, but yeah, I've been married 20 years. We actually live in the house that we got married at.
Awesome.
My in-laws built it. We got married there. My wife grew up there, and now we live there in Douglasville. So I'm very blessed with an amazing, healthy family, and you know, they challenge me and drive me and just help kind of complete my service in this world. So it's really been awesome. So.
Can't imagine life without them, right?
No, I know. We say all the time, like, how did we not have 4 businesses and, you know, all these different life experiences now, because we still accomplish a lot, but your time is just directed in a very different, genuine, amazing kind of way, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. So,
yeah.
So that's a little bit about my personal self. I do have a chiropractic practice in Wyomissing, Pennsylvania. It's going on 12 years that I've been at that practice. I've been in practice. I just crossed in March my 14-year anniversary of being a licensed chiropractor.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So when I say that number, I mean it feels like long enough to know something for sure, and also young enough to not be completely stuck in my ways. So I'm at a good position in my career where I feel like I know I've had so many experiences that allow me to do a great job, but also I'm still continuing to learn new things. So
Always got to learn.
Yeah.
Pro tip, right? Pro tip number 1.
Absolutely.
So I know you have a pretty interesting story on how you got, like, what drove you to become a chiropractor.
Yeah, I was thinking about that on the way over, because I was introduced, or I experienced positive results of chiropractic in a variety of ways, one of which really inspired me to become a chiropractor. But the first time I ever utilized chiropractic, I was a high school athlete. I was a collegiate distance runner, so nice. I was a cross-country track athlete. And in high school, when I was in high school, I got home I did a European trip where we were on, I think it was 10 days long, and we went to so many places in such a little time that we were sleeping on buses and hotels every night. It was pretty, like, really get up and go kind of trip. And I remember I got back from all those travels. I woke up 2 days later, and I like couldn't get out of bed. Like, I couldn't move. I was a senior in high school. I couldn't get out of bed. And my mom, who was in healthcare, she was an x-ray tech. She took x-rays. Okay. She was like, well, we could take you to the emergency room, or like, let's give this chiropractic thing a try. She was always curious. So that day I went to see a chiropractor. He like did the intake in the morning, got me adjusted later in the day. And I went from being like immobile, my mom helping me move, to like I could exercise lightly. And I was like, this is wild. Mm-hmm. And I went back a couple days in a row, and I got out of that situation, and I utilized him in that service until I went to school, to college. And I just loved it. At first I was just like, this is great. I've never felt better. I feel like I get through, I recover well. I kind of, quote, knew when I needed it, it seemed. And when I got to college, I was running competitively and cross country, and I found we had access to a chiropractor. So I started to go see that gentleman. I maintained I was pretty healthy in college from injuries. I didn't really get them. But I only used chiropractic at that point as I'm in pain or I'm experiencing discomfort, so I'm going to go and get it taken care of. I never heard that it was anything more than that. And then something happened to me. I was an education major in special education, and I was getting ready for my student teaching, and I developed debilitating panic attacks and anxiety and dizziness and vertigo. So I was a 22-year-old kid. I wasn't abusing substances, and I woke up one day and I remember just feeling so dizzy. And I went to the training room and they sent me to the infirmary, I think they called it on our campus. They monitored me and sent me home, and it was still happening. So I went back. I had a really good relationship with one of the trainers. He drove me to the emergency room. They took blood work. They took my heart rate, my blood pressure. My blood pressure was like high. My heart rate was like 125 at rest. And, they gave me some medication to relax me, and it did. And then I got the gamut of testing from MRIs to MRAs to EKGs, EEGs. They looked at my head, my neck,
My goodness.
my brain, my sinuses. They looked at everything, and everything came back normal. But I wasn't normal. I was suffering. So they put me on a antidepressant, anti-anxiety medication, and that helped manage it for a period of time. And it helped kind of hold me off while I got into teaching. And while I was teaching, I woke up with some pain, and I found a local chiropractor to where I was teaching, which was Unionville School District in Chester County. And I went to see this gentleman, and they ask you health history and this stuff, and I had put a couple things about anxiety, and he asked me a couple questions. And the one thing I had noticed during the time I had that anxiety was every time I went to the chiropractor, I didn't need to take my emergency pill, to calm down. My body felt normal. I didn't feel as anxious. And he helped me connect why that might be occurring. And I got under regular care. I was being seen regularly, and I just started to get better. I wasn't having anxiety. I had asthma and allergy for years. That was gone. That was clearing up. I was having sinus. I used to get all these sinus infections. That was gone. And I was a runner. In my first marathon to my second marathon, I dropped 7 minutes off my time. And I was just healing up. And I was a very medically minded person. So I wasn't looking to change, but I just did because I experienced that the body's self-healing, self-regulating, and if you give it the right conditions, it has the propensity and will heal. And I was given the right environment, and my eyes were open. I was this is different. And I remember just going in to see him and ask him all these questions out of curiosity, and he could tell, and he's like, have you ever thought about doing this? And I was like, no. But I started to then, and one little thing somebody says to you can change your life. I remember hearing that, and I came home, and I was only married for about 4 or 6 months, somewhere around there. And I remember sitting down for dinner, and I'm like, you know what my chiropractor said to me today, Lauren? I was like, she thought I'd he asked me if I ever considered doing it and said I'd probably be good. And she's like, that's nice. And then,
nice.
And then the next day or a day or two, I bring it up again, and she's like, you're talking to me like I'm your dad. Do you want to do this? And I was like, yeah, I kind of do want to do this. So we started the plan, and that's what led me to go leave the educational profession and then go into the chiropractic school. Yeah.
That is wild.
Yeah.
That's a wild story.
Yeah.
Well, I'll back up and explain how I found you.
Yeah.
Being a drywaller since 1987, right out of high school. There's not too many drywallers that don't suffer from back pain.
Makes sense.
You got lower back pain from lifting and probably not bending at the knees, or and then looking over and working on ceilings. And I suffered for a long time, but I've been going to chiropractors. I don't really remember when I started. Probably 19 or 20.
Okay.
And I've been to some really good ones that I enjoyed, and they helped me a lot throughout the time, and then they retired and so on and so forth. But there was always one thing that I would go and I would get relief, and then within a day or two I'd have headaches again. And I know it's funny because I found you from another chiropractor.
Yeah.
Right?
Because I was taking care of her, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. She
Yeah.
was your patient as well.
Yeah.
So talk about talk about a pro right here. To have a professional chiropractor say you need to go see Dr. Bill, and he can fix you because what he does specifically with the upper cervical, right?
Yeah, correct. Yep.
And so I was like, yeah, I mean, I got to do this, and met you for the first time.
Yeah.
And you gave me a thorough examination, said, I think I can help you.
Yeah.
And let's do it. And, a little bit, I want to say within the first month, my headaches went down a lot. And then I don't suffer from them anymore. Every once in a while I get them, and I can tell if it's, an overabundance of either working over my head or whatever. But man, you've been helping me a lot.
It's awesome.
And it's, again, nothing against the other chiropractors that I saw. It sure felt great.
Yeah.
And I would get relief, my lower and back and shoulders and stuff like that too. But it was just something about those headaches.
Yeah.
And I could always tell where they were coming. But you got me fixed, man.
Yeah.
That
was good.
I
Yeah.
appreciate you, buddy.
I love it. Yeah, I do hear that a lot.
Yeah.
I tend to, if there's one condition I don't want to say do my best work, but if I was to create an avatar of like who, you kind of do fit in that mold. Like I do work with people who've had tremendous types and forms of headaches that have showed up over time. And I do specialize in working with the upper neck and its relationship to nerves. And that's that's why did I get well through chiropractic when I had all this vertigo, dizziness, racing heart rate, all, allergies, asthma? It has to do with nerves in the nervous system. So we get caught up in being like, oh, it's a bone out of alignment or this. And it really has a lot more to do with like the underlying performance of the electrical system. And it just so happens to travel and be housed and protected within the spine. So that by working with the spine, it helps influence the nerves, which control and coordinate everything.
Yeah.
So it's not that, chiropractic cures everything. It can influence a whole heck of a lot of processes in the human body to make them better. And, disease happens because somebody's out. None of us live forever, so there's always physical matter limitations, if you will. We don't get to keep this, forever. And probably we don't want to after 100 years. But
pro tip.
Yeah. But with that being said, we want to maximize its working ability from the time that it's given. So it's really chiropractic influences the nerves and the nervous system, and that's why you saw this big difference. The reason the upper neck's so important is over 80% of really this. You've heard of the 80-20 rule before, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Applies to everything.
It applies to pretty much everything. Well, it also applies to your spine and nerves. Like 80% of the sensory roughly 80% of the sensory information, which means your brain knowing where everything is processed at the upper neck. All the other receptors are kind of spread throughout the body. So we can make a big impact on posture and your brain understanding different coordination reflexes and things based on that area. So it's a little more, now I do also do some full spine work with people, but it's predominantly upper cervically oriented because you can make a big impact by getting that area right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how I kind of ended up. Which actually, I wasn't even going to an upper cervical chiropractor. That influenced me to go to school.
Okay.
So, but when I was at school, some people ask me, how'd you get into this work?
Yeah.
Well, it's like you said, I was taking care of a chiropractor who referred you. Right?
Yeah.
She was like, go see this guy.
Yeah.
Well, what I found was when shit hit the fan, if you will, in chiropractic, they would send them, people would take their wives, themselves, they'd all go see the upper cervical person. And I was always curious, like, well, what was it that they had that was different? So let's go see that. And I got to following some of the doctors that did that work. And they all had a little extra swagger to them, to be honest. They all had a little more clout. And I think it was because they just used more data to know if what they were doing was making a difference. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Interesting how you say, you get it right up here and it works through the whole nervous system and can heal other areas.
Yeah.
That is awesome. So, I know you've done a lot of teaching as well, and I know I like to ask all the pros that come on the show, if they're involved in in maybe mentoring or encouraging others,
Yeah.
you know, to come through and do what you do?
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a natural archetype as of a teacher. My first love was teaching and education. You know, I was a high school special education teacher. I was a high school emotional support teacher. And, you know, I remember when I was leaving education, they had a staff meeting where you find out like people are moving on, this person's going there, and not everybody in the school knew what I was doing or where I was going, and they announced that I was leaving. And I remember one of the math teachers came up to me on the way out of the assembly, and she's like, "What are you doing? Where are you going?" I'm like, "Well, I'm going to chiropractic school." And she's like, "Oh, that has nothing to do with education." And I remember, right? And I remember my chiropractor one day, I was saying like, "Oh, I can't wait to be done teaching." And he's like, "Billy, you're never going to be done teaching." And I was like, "Oh, that's right." So, you know, in one aspect, I'm always teaching people with education, but I also have had the direct opportunity to teach this type of work, and I was very blessed to travel all over the place. I got to teach in South America, which was my first experience. One of my mentors had passed away. One of the gentlemen who taught me how to do this type of chiropractic, he had passed away, and I was asked to go in his place to teach in South America. And I had to teach with a translator. And so I'd speak a couple seconds and then they would translate. It was so hard. Imagine us doing this conversation where you say 3 things, they translate. Like, it's hard. So that I remember being the most exhausted I had ever been after the first night, and I did 3 days of that. It got better as I went, but I got to teach in South America. I got to teach around the United States in like California, Texas, the South, and then also I got to do Europe. I got to go to Europe a couple times, and while I was teaching in Europe, I think they just liked me. I don't know. I made some really great connections, and I at one point years ago I helped open a practice there in Barcelona, Spain.
Wow.
One of my students, she wanted to open an office there. She wanted to do it in this style. I knew how to do that. It wasn't super expensive, so I kind of funded the project, and then she ended up buying the practice from me. So another girl opened a practice in London, and then I had a student who ended up opening like 5 upper cervical offices around the UK. So I was very much involved for a couple years, really teaching people the work that I do, and I really did love it. But then COVID happened, so that kind of stopped. I didn't really go on the road a lot, and my daughter was born right before then, so I haven't gotten back into it, and I don't necessarily have a desire to go back and do that. But you know, some people are always, whatever business, they're like, oh, you open up maybe one location or multiple locations. I attempted to do that a little bit, and I didn't like it. I'd much rather have one thing that's great and bring other people into it to help me do that one thing that's great. So we were talking before, I do have another doctor coming on, and he has a great chiropractic background. He's a little bit versed in the upper cervical world, but that doesn't matter. That's like, it's really easy for me to take somebody who has really high quality clinical skills and then teach them what I do. It's actually easier than a student with a blank slate.
Well, in reality, though, you have duplicated yourself. I mean, there's a ripple effect from what you've done.
Totally.
It's pretty cool. You opened up, man, world renowned.
It's kind of, and at one point it was actually called Keystone Specific. Like it was Keystone Specific, Barcelona. And then it was, you know, she bought it and changed the name, and it's still existing. It's still going. And I don't think about this often, which is kind of cool. But every so often I'll be like, you know, it's another thing that I reflect. My dad passed away years ago, but I always reflect on, like, there's a life that your parents lived that you just don't ever really understand. And I'm like, that's going to be one day I'll be like, yeah, I did that. And my daughter's going to be like, what? You had a practice in Barcelona? You really speak Spanish. I'm like, I know, it was wild.
That's great.
But I did it, and it taught me a lot about just the way people are in different countries. Like, it was really a great experience, and now I'm more of a homebody. I'd much rather be at home with my dogs.
Kind of happens as you get older, I think.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So I don't feel like at this point in my life, kind of raising our kids, like I'm missing out on anything because I had those opportunities. And it is really rewarding to know that, like, the work that you did and taught people, it was at least inspirational enough for them to repeat it, like you said. So
it's legacy.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So now, and I know we talk a lot when I come to see you, but Were you a soccer fan? I mean, you were in Barcelona. I mean, you were in
Yeah.
like Mecca for soccer. There, right?
I always try to get more into soccer than I think the United States makes that a hard sport to get into. It's getting easier with all the ways we can watch TV, but I really want to be a soccer fan.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, when you said Barcelona, I'm like, oh, that's Messi.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
The man came from there. The
and
goat.
was
Right?
Ronaldo? Who was else was there? Messi was there.
You know what? I'll get it wrong. I'm sure. I know Ronaldo is one of the top
Yeah,
two. But
he might have been there at one point. They jumped teams, but yeah,
that's awesome.
I didn't get to see any games. I've never been to a European soccer game. I spent a lot of time in London, in the UK, probably more than Barcelona even over the years. But I just haven't gotten to it. I'd love to though.
What a story! What a neat journey.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny because I heard a pastor years ago say, "You live life forward and you understand it backwards."
That's good.
And you know, sometimes it's if you're going through a struggle or whatever, and you kind of look back and like, oh, well, this thing happened. And I'm not saying but just how you got to where you are.
Yeah.
And you look back and man, if you weren't having those issues.
Yeah.
And then you went and saw that one chiropractor, and then the one guy dropped a little bug in your ear.
Yeah.
Maybe you ever think of being one, and
Yeah.
here you are all these years later. And
and that's kind of what it took. That's all it took. He was like, he kind of stopped me in my tracks. I remember he was like, "You're really curious about this. Like, have you ever considered it?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "No." And I think even when he said that, I didn't realize how that would have to reshape my life. Like, you think, if you have to go to school for something, most people theorize you can probably do it local or go somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like, let's say you want to be an engineer. There's obviously local schools to the Philadelphia area that are going to be better for engineering, and then there's also going to be some around the country. Well, when I decided that, I was like, where's the closest school? And it's like, number one, the closest ones aren't that good, and I was going to be moving. So it wasn't just like, oh, I'll go to chiropractic school, maybe I stay teaching and try to like do this. No, that's not how this was going to work. And I didn't know that when he said that. I started doing the research and I was like, man, I'm going to have to take science classes I hadn't done. So it was a big endeavor, move to a different state. We moved to Georgia. I lived there for 6 years and I practiced there 2 years before coming back. And I was really unsuccessful at first too, because I even decided I wanted to do this kind of chiropractic work like a month before I graduated.
Interesting.
Yeah. I was dabbling with it, and when I was doing, this is an interesting story. We did what was called like a peak experience, which was basically being like an intern in another doctor's office before you graduated. You got experience. And you were allowed to take care of the clients. And I was learning some of this upper cervical work. And I remember the doctor who in the office, he had this one woman who was she was under care for a while. She was really struggling, kind of like you, like had these headaches. She had done well, but they were still giving her problems. And he kind of like passed her to me and was like, why don't you try that thing you do, Bill, and see how it works. But I didn't have the right tools. I didn't take the right imaging. So I went with what we call field listings. Like, you can make educated guesses based. So I did that one time and I adjusted her, and it wasn't set up to rest. I have clients rest after adjustments. So she rested for a couple minutes on the one bench and then went home. She called about an hour later and was like, I just feel weird. I feel kind of dizzy and off. And I'm like, we had a class that night. We were doing a workshop. I'll call you back after the workshop. And I'm like, oh my God, I killed this person.
What happened?
It's all going to be bad. And I call her back, and then she's like, I feel like the best I ever felt.
That's awesome.
But the next time she comes in, I was sympathetic, and she was like going out of town, and I adjusted her when maybe I shouldn't have or whatnot, and it resulted in kind of a not great result. And he kind of threw me under the bus and was like, but it was his decision.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit annoyed with that because that didn't feel integrity. So the next day, I went and bought one of the tools that I used, her thermography. I went and bought it from some other chiropractor in Alabama. I drove there to pick it up, and I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. Like, I'm not going to like dabble and not know I'm not using the right tools, because I saw the power of it when you do it. But when you do it without the right tools, I was like, So then I went into practice, and I just like was learning the technique for like 9-10 months. And I was an independent contractor, which means I run in space from a person.
Okay.
So I had low overhead. It was giving me a foundation to just learn the technique.
Yeah.
And then from that experience, I went into an associateship in the largest type of office that that's similar to mine in Georgia. So then I got a ton of experience before I came back here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is that the tool that you use on me?
Yeah,
That-
like
that
the
shows
digital
them-
infrared thermography, which is the scanning tool that helps us get some measurements of heat to determine when or where to adjust people. So, yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
You mentioned about the resting room.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
where I take naps. I end up.
Yeah, you're
So,
kind of famous for
he
taking
do-
naps.
The problem is I have sleep apnea and I snore like crazy. So I try to, I know you want us to rest. We go in this room. He does the adjustment, and there's how many chairs you have?
I think 8. Yeah, we
It's
have
like
8.
8 huge zero
really
gravity leather.
They're really
Like they're
good.
sweet.
They're really
and you
good.
get put in there and put the pillow behind your head. And if I don't get on my phone, which you don't really want us to do, you
No,
want us to rest.
no. Yeah.
But if I don't get on my phone, I start snoring, I'm
Yeah.
sleeping, or I hear someone else snoring.
Yeah.
It's so peaceful.
It is. It's
Definitely.
the most relaxing place in the area, I say. I mean, it really is.
Nap time.
If we
Dr.
did this
Bill's.
podcast from those chairs, it would be a totally different thing because we'd be falling asleep. Yeah.
Oh man, good stuff. Well, I have a bunch of questions.
Okay.
I mean, I know we were
Let's do it.
already diving in, but so someone comes to see you. I know
Yeah.
you're pretty thorough
Yeah.
on your first visit.
Mhm.
You were pretty thorough. Like you check everything. You're
Yeah.
just not going in there.
No.
I'm just going to crack you and.
No.
You want to elaborate a little bit on what happens
Yeah.
on the first visit?
Yeah,
for
we do
someone,
have a
or-
2-day process. Sometimes people have gone to a chiropractor and the person will adjust them on the first visit. I personally, because of the technique and just because of working with the population, it's good to x-ray. We're working on the spine. Like, you don't go in and just start ripping down walls or putting walls up without doing some form of assessing. So that's what we do. And what that exam looks like, any good doctor is going to talk to somebody first. Like, the consultation is the start of understanding of what a person's been through, what they've tried, how long this has been going on, how it's really impacting them. Because those things matter. Like, if you care about people, those things matter to me. I want to know why they're there and what it's getting in the way of, so we can work towards it. Because not all healing is just about resolution of the thing down to 0, right? Like, oh, I want no pain forever again.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, well, I can't do that. Well, what's this pain doing to you? Well, I can't play golf. Okay, so golf's the goal.
Yeah.
Golf's the goal. Let's get back to that. I can work with you on that. And then we're like, are you playing golf? All right. Okay. So first we're starting to have a conversation about like where they are, what they want. Then we're going to do a detailed exam looking at, we've already touched upon the kind of technology. We use digital infrared thermography, which is basically a fancy way of saying temperature graphs of the spine, okay, and the neck. And we establish abnormals, if you want to call them, on the first visit, kind of baseline where somebody is, and then I use those scans along the way to look at data for each visit. Like you get pre-scanned and post-scanned after an adjustment. Also, we're looking at posture, range of motion, and then I look at bilateral weight scales, because if people's head's not on center, they'll start to make a lot of severe accommodations that can result in like pounds, 10, 15 pound difference from one side to the other. I've seen even 80 or 90, and it go back down to under 10,
Wow.
So people walk around in a pretty unbalanced state. And then of course we do any x-rays that are involved. In the types of x-rays, I actually do a few movement ones, so I can test the actual specific motions of the neck. So then I can, based on that, make an adjustment that's catered to that person. So it's like when you get adjusted, you turn your head a certain way. I'm working on a certain bone on a certain angle. That's different for another person.
Yeah.
Though it might seem very similar for you each time, it can be quite different for another person based on what they have going on. So it's kind of like your measurements if you're going to a tailor. You know, we're kind of like looking at the whole picture. And some people you got to bring in the waist a little bit more. Some people need more room in the shoulders. So sometimes we have to kind of tailor make what we're going to do for that person to get the best result. So that's kind of what, and then on the second day, we're really going over what's working, what's not working, how we can help you, and then start getting somebody adjusted. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, your technique, the first time I was there, and I'm like, you want me to do what? You're like, down there. Yeah, the way
It's hard to describe. I don't even tell it to people.
The karate chop.
It's called knee, chest, upper cervical because the client's kneeling, their chest is on the table, and we're working on their neck. It's really, really unique, right?
Yeah.
It's a great name, but it's different. And a lot of people, there's 3 things people say about my technique directly to me. Number 1, it's like, what's Family Feud? They're like, survey says. And the thing most people say is, I'll never get used to it. That's the number 1. The number 2 is, does anyone like that? Number 3 is, does anyone not like that? Like, so it's across the board. Some people love it. Most people like the results.
Yeah.
Maybe don't love the approach, but they like the results because they're.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like when you get a good one
Yeah,
and I
it's
can
good.
feel it, you know?
It's really good. Yeah.
But again, my neck's been so screwed up, but awesome. So, you know, Pro Tip Podcast, that's what we're doing, you know, showcasing pros, telling stories, and giving pro tips so it drove your success.
Yeah.
Man, I'm sure you have some tips like with posture. Like, I'm a flat-footed person. Like, Chris laughs at me so many, you know, Chris being corrective therapy, massage therapist, she's like, I'll get in those feet, I'm gonna dig those arches out, you know.
Funny.
And she wants to hurt my feet because I'm so flat-footed.
Yeah.
But like, how important is posture?
Yeah.
You know, as I sit here and I'm like slumped over, like that's.
I mean, there's a couple things to say about posture. It's 100% important, and it's not as important that, you know, people come in and they're like, what can I do to make my posture better? Well, if you're spending your day thinking about posture, that's a lot of work. So it's something that does happen to the most part automatically. Good posture. So there is a mechanism of like alignment that matters within posture, without a doubt. Like if a bride wants to have better posture, I joke they should come see me, because they should. Be people that have better mobility, flexibility, and strength of the spine tend to have better posture.
Yeah.
Number 2, strength is probably one of the biggest components for posture. We live in a society now that is constantly tempted to be on screens, devices, sit, not move. So knowing that, and when people learn to do strength training initially, what do all men want to do? They want to
Lift.
press.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to press. And when you press, you build up this kind of front body and you shut it down. So, you know, strengthening of the back is such an important thing. We could probably, this is a general statement. This isn't like your trainer's telling you, but generally most people would spend almost double time working on their posterior chain, everything behind, compared to their front, because a lot of times when people are younger, they start lifting, they work all the vanity muscles, everything from the front, from the abs to pressing. They tighten everything up, they spend no time counterbalancing, and then they were on phone, they were on a book, they were on a computer, they were sitting. And all of that kind of folds us down. So we should be open. We should be able to open up. So those are just some general principles with posture. But posture gets better when we're moving. You know, I think the sedentary nature of people is the thing that's crushing. So step 1 is like, get moving, get walking. Because if you're moving your body, you're more aware of your body. How often have you sat at a desk and you're like, oh shit, I gotta do something different? And it's because you weren't moving that you didn't think about it. But if you bend over and start like picking things up off the ground, you're doing some leaf collecting or something, you'll very quickly realize like that hurts if you stay there too long.
Oh yeah.
Right? So there is a movement piece, and that's one of my inspirations. I'm the doctor that tries to get people moving. Whatever form that would be is going to be the one that they're willing to do and do often is going to be really helpful. So that's a good one. A good start. I know you got a couple other things that I feel like I can talk about with posture. Like
I know you've done, you know, you're big into like stretching. There's certain stretches you can do. I know like my hip flexors have been an issue over time as well. And
you know, I actually have a YouTube playlist that we send to almost every client now that's called Spinal Hygiene. And maybe I'll include the link in this video.
Okay.
So there's 5 spinal moves, and then there's 1 lunge move that works on your hip flexors. And honestly, if everyone learned to do those very regularly, and I'm saying in the first couple months, let's say you have no workout routine, and you do this routine the way it's intended, let's say 4 or 5 times a week, your body will be different. You will be so much more flexible and strong, and you will teach your spine every way it should go, can go, and how to be strong through the greatest range of motion. It is the best thing you can do. There's 5 spinal moves, 1 lunge move, and they will make you strong and flexible. Really good stuff. And I've put myself through it. I did it like 90 days straight one time. And once you do something like that, you don't have to do it that often, but you'll know how those moves will help you.
Yeah.
So you have a relationship then with the tool, which is super important. So that's like the best thing. If you do what's going to make posture better, I know which one of those I should be working on based on my state, and now I can like command it because I did the work, right?
Yeah.
It's like and when you're hanging, you're like, this tool is going to work much better than this tool, but because you've used them for so much.
Yeah.
Well, that's how this can really serve. Those I'm a big, like, not traditional stretcher. I'm a bigger move through greatest range of motion. I like isometric things to failure because they make your brain work really hard for an area. And what I mean by that is if you do a wall sit here to failure, when you're failing, you're shaking, you're moving, and your brain has to work so hard in each one of those areas that it actually brings all this new attention.
Yeah.
And the brain's connection to the body has a lot to do with posture. So that's why movement's so important.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I know if my wife was here too, she would laugh at me because pro tip, you can't just have the video and watch the guy exercise or do the stretching. You have to do it yourself.
You do.
And every time I would pull my back or do anything, she would be on, like, I'm constantly YouTubing about stretches, and she's like, you got 7 videos, you haven't gotten on the floor once to do one. But I watch other people's do the stretches.
Yeah.
Doesn't work.
This is why
you gotta get involved. You gotta do it,
this
right?
This is like the pro tip. Knowledge doesn't solve the world's problems. It's action always does. You know, we have all the information, and the world's like more depressed than everything that it ever has been. You know, because that doesn't like fill us. It's like helping other people and like learning from experience are 2 of the best things that like help people do it. And in my experience, it's like if somebody, this is why I love it when a client actually, I send them these videos. I'm like, start doing them this way. When they do it, I get so excited because I know they're going to get results with them. Because the reality is, anybody even watching this is like, well, I'm not close to him. Could he find me a place that's similar? I like him, but I can't go there. If somebody just really wanted to correct some of their spinal stuff, this is like a simple video that's free online, and it really helps. It really helps. My staff uses it all the time. They're like, work it into their lives because they found that it's true self-help, right? Like, you're like, here, let me teach you, and you can take care of some of your problems because you can. There are ways to, take care of your body. So, and that is kind of the goal of any doctor. I heard one of my professors say, he's like, you should try to put yourself out of business, but by doing that, you'll never be out of business. You should try to have no clients.
Yeah.
You should attempt to do that. And by doing so, you're going to probably be busier than you ever knew,
Yeah. That's a whole other topic.
Yeah, it is.
That's a rabbit hole there we could go down because
so I'll stop it there.
Functional health and chiropractic, obviously you're promoting health.
Yeah.
The regular medical system,
you
have to question yourself sometimes if they just want us on meds.
But
do they really want you healthy or do they want you sick?
But again, in my experience, I end up taking care of a lot of medical doctors now, and I over the years I've had more and more come to me, and the reality is like, I think there was a time where there was a lot more butting of heads, but right now there's a system that's stressed, and there's a lot of good people in there that have creative minds to better care for people. So, I see it a little even different now after having experience. Like, I think I went into that, like, especially a person who was very medically minded, saw how natural health really helped change me. But there's a time and a place for everything. And I think we get really annoyed in healthcare. This is like a sidebar. I think we get really annoyed when people aren't treated like people. That's the problem, right? Across the board. It's like, my wife was in the hospital a year ago. She was pregnant. She had pneumonia and ended up with a sepsis, and she was like being managed by 3 different units in the hospital for a week. And it was a scary time, but the people that were working with her did such an amazing job. And
That's
it gave me such a new, like, fresh look at, like,
Yeah.
you know, there's a time and a place for everything, but
Yeah.
it was the way they did it that made me feel like, oh, that was great. I'm glad those people were behind whatever they were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
What's your take on diet? And
Yeah.
I mean, if you can.
Doesn't matter. No, I'm kidding.
Hey, cookies.
No, I like
Coming from the
this.
guy that's in shape and looks good, I
Looks-
gotta cover my.
I mean, I think it evolves. Like, I've tried a lot of things, and,
Yeah.
and I do encourage people to try, because I think everyone's DNA and biology is very different. So, you know, one person can eat one diet, and the other person can eat that same one, and it could kill them. So, but this is, I think we've overcomplicated. So when you're like, how do I feel about diet? I feel like the health in the natural health world is so hard to figure out. And a couple years ago, maybe even worse, I don't know. You have like carnivore, you have omnivore, you have vegan, you have I've tried vegan,
Atkins.
I've tried vegetarian, I've done all these things, and I have found that at different points in my life, certain things probably work better than others. Like, I was lactose intolerant for probably 10 years. I didn't do any dairy. And now I do a lot of dairy and raw and Greek yogurt and stuff, and I do super well with it. But we get a new body every 7 years. So I like these principles for nutrition is, you know, okay, your nutrition, diet, it's good to not be heavy. That's why these new drugs that are coming out, there's something to be said. Is it better to be 180 pounds versus 300 pounds, even if it's drug induced?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not here to, are there effects? For sure, but there's a lot of consequences for being overweight. Now, with diet, I think people complicate it. There's foods that are made of one ingredient, and there's foods that have a laundry list of them. You eat more of the things that are one ingredient, it's going to work out better. You know, I don't think any of these diets that eliminate fruit completely or vegetables completely or any of those. And when people say they can't eat a pepper without, you're not very resilient. So I don't know, like, what world you're going to survive in. So I always joke, I'm like, I think you need a diet that's going to allow you to be resilient and not, like, taken out because you had a raisin, you know, and it doesn't work for you.
Or one carb.
Yeah, or one carb.
You gotta have some carbs.
Yeah, exactly. So I really do try to keep it simple, because I think most people aren't willing to just try the simple. You know, they're like, well, I'm going to stick to this whole complex thing. Well, it was like...
All or nothing, then they do nothing.
Exactly.
It's too much.
Because, I have all the information of all the books and all the things, but, like, are you going to do it? And are you going to keep up with it? Because if you can't sustain it, it's not worth it. And also, I've seen a lot of statistics on people that set a weight goal to get to. When they hit that, a lot of times they go too far. What's the next goal? Because the goal was to lose the weight. So then when you hit it, it's like winning the gold medal. They say somebody wins the gold medal and then they're depressed because they're like, that was the only thing. They kind of got lost in it. So I think you have to find something that's going to work. We live in a modern society. You can't avoid all pesticides and all that, but you can become as resilient as you can be the best you can. And I think you have to make a lot more good choices than poor ones. But it's a package. Like, you need movement, you need exercise, and you probably need a heck of a lot more this day and age because we're so much more sedentary. So those are some of my simple principles. If I could inspire somebody to just kind of run with that and really run with it, they'll probably see some changes. Like, how'd you make that steak? I just made it. It was a steak. Okay, good. Did you add all kinds of weird ingredients? No. What else did you have? I have broccoli. Okay, I had rice. There's single ingredients. And eat till you're full, but don't go too far. And I think the more you innately eat things that are simpler, you're gonna get a better sense of, like, am I full? So I keep it simple.
And you'll feel better.
Yeah, I keep it simple, but I personally have experimented with a lot of things. I went vegan for like 6 months, 2 times. And for 3 months, I felt awesome. And then the next 3, I was just like, never had enough energy. I never had enough energy. It was horrible. So now I'm like, really, I tried it. It did not work for me. Could it work for somebody? I guess. If I had a chef, I could probably be very plant-based. And it would be work and I'd have, I'm not, and I don't have that time. So.
What do you think with water? Like, is everybody walking around dehydrated, or... You know, people like, you can overdrink, you get too much,
I personally, I really like to have electrolytes in my water all the time, because I do think there is this balance that people naturally do is you drink so much water, you dilute your electrolytes. So then you get hungry and you overeat. Like, we're trying to balance some of that chemistry. And one time I did and the reason I say this is I did a couple fasts for like 48 to 72 hours where I used a solution that was the salts were balanced, the potassium was balanced, and I thought I was going to be drinking a ton. And what I found in those couple days, I didn't drink that much. I didn't want to drink a lot of that solution, and I was hydrated. But I wasn't swinging all these different directions of like too much water, not enough salts. So, and it wasn't that hard to fast by doing that because I was like electrolyte balance. So I drink a lot of electrolytes in my water. I don't drink a lot of plain water, and I don't know if I don't overeat that much. So I don't know if that's as a result.
Yeah.
But I'm a fan of.
I'm a pro.
Yeah, okay.
I'm a pro at overeating.
Okay. Pro.
And sweets. And,
again, I think there's all these other weird kind of
Yeah.
waters out there, like the hydrant. I don't know enough about them. I haven't explored them. I think the health world is very gimmicky in many ways.
Yeah.
So you can make your own electrolyte drink with some Celtic sea salt and some lemon juice. You know, and it's gonna be okay. So. Again, I'm a back to basics kind of guys. I think people can spend their whole life getting ready to get ready, and like you're gonna miss out on like living it. So I've gotten to the point where you can't avoid everything here. You know, maybe some of the diseases we experience now are partly because we live so long too.
Yeah.
You know,
it's true.
Maybe.
Yeah. So then the hydration, that probably helps with your muscles and stuff like that, as far as maybe tightening up your neck or whatever. You might feel better, I guess.
Yeah, most people don't have it. What being hydrated will do is help with mobility. It's definitely going to help people have more fluidity within their body and also have more consistent energy levels. Yeah, I mean, you should be hydrated. If you don't know what that means, like there's a lot of people that know. After people's first adjustments, I'm always like, and tonight, try to be hydrated. And they're like, yeah, I know I never drink any water. I only drink coffee and diet soda. And it's like, I mean, you can get hydrated from those things. They're water based, but maybe there's better alternatives. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know, you know, people would say used to be a big Diet Coke person.
Okay.
You know, always driving around with a big bucket of Diet Coke and
wow.
So unhealthy.
Yeah.
You know, even Chris says, like, just have the Coke. You might as well have the sugar instead of the other stuff that they put in the diet sodas. So we're trying to stay away from all that stuff.
Nice.
But here's one for you.
Okay.
How about the people that crack their own necks?
Oh, that's a good one. All right. I mean, people come in all the time, and I feel like they trust me when they tell me that they do this, because everyone feels a little bit, they have like a look of shame. They're like, I'm telling the chiropractor that I crack my own neck, and or my husband presses on my back, or this and that. And this is what I simply say, is like, a lot of times if you're able to self-crack in the things you're doing, there might be areas that there's hypermobility in there that you can create this, maybe, potentially. You can kind of, I don't want to be like damaged structures. You can over time. You can like kind of wear out an area. It's probably not healthy. Sometimes people give themselves like vertigo by doing that kind of thing. But having that sensation or that awareness, like feeling stuck, your body is telling your brain something. Like something about this doesn't feel like it's functioning right.
Yeah.
So it's getting your attention about something that's going on within your system. So one of the reasons I like upper cervical a lot is I personally found that the chiropractic adjustment kind of became the pill for every ill for me. Instead of like going to medicine, I was just always going to get adjusted so that thing didn't show up. And I always felt like I needed to be adjusted. But once I started getting upper cervical care, I very rarely had that feeling as often. I would go get checked, I'd get adjusted, but I wasn't feeling like I always needed that kind of sensory stimulation. So the simple answer is it's really not a good thing to do. It's providing you an opportunity that there is awareness that something might not be right, but it's much better to get somebody professionally trained to go about doing it, because you could just be creating more mobility in areas that don't need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely can tell when I need to, you know, when my appointment's coming up, you know what I mean? Like I can tell, like I need, you know, my body speaks to me. I can definitely tell when I'm out. or Chris will look at me and she'll be like, "You're like sideways, like you're walking,
Yeah.
like you get,
Yeah.
you're a little out of line today." So, but man, it's good stuff, bud. So I know you have. Do you still do the meditation classes? Or
Yeah,
you're
I've
big
been
into that?
practicing meditation for years. I've been trained to teach it. I've been probably teaching meditation for about 7 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been one of the, people's minds are busy, really busy. And meditation is so helpful for the mind. I mean, there's a lot of like science that's backed by it, but I think just for people, you don't know what it means to be relaxed if you don't practice it. You know, in its simplest terms, like you can't understand when your mind and body are kind of out of control if you haven't learned how to create some peace within that. It's also able to have a lot greater clarity. So I'm a pretty energetic person. You can probably tell in this. I go pretty hard, but it's a really great personal practice that allows me to have some clarity because, as a business owner too, and as a person who takes care of lots of people's, I'm responsible for a lot of decisions on a very regular basis. And it's better to have a clear mind to do that. And I have found that it's really helped me slow down and make good decisions and not just the ones that come from like snap judgments, emotions, and these quick feelings in the moment. So, I've been teaching people how to do that for years. I think it's one of the best practices because it also helps people get greater levels and deeper levels of rest. And just the world's busy. So I think you're seeing a shift back from like, we have all everything at our fingertips digitally. And I think you're going to see people go back to simpler ways. And like you said in the meditation, or we call it the resting suite, where people rest afterwards. I'm finding it in the last year. I think more people are just choosing to put their phone down. Yeah. So I think you're going to see a movement towards practices that help bring people back to like inner peace as opposed to external chaos. Yeah.
Yeah, I know when I come see you, I'm usually, my mind's 100 miles an hour, busy day, and it is good just to sit in there and do nothing and try not to fall asleep.
We are designed to have that quiet time, and it's harder to do it in this world because we're industrialized. There's things to do. There's things to see. There's work to be done.
We're productive.
And as Western society, that's like a drive in us. Like we're driven to do that. I think that's part of our purpose is to like create a world that's magnificent and wonderful and peaceful and in harmony. But we get distracted. I had shiny object syndrome. That's how I ended up opening a practice in Barcelona. You know what I mean?
Shiny object syndrome. I never heard that.
It's good though, right? They're like, wow, look at that over there.
Squirrel.
Yeah, exactly. The
That's
squirrel's
awesome.
wearing a shiny object.
That is awesome.
It's the same thing. So, but now I feel like I make slower, better decisions because there's clarity. Plus, you're kind of checking in with your own inner guidance to be like, where am I on this? And if the world slowed down to that point a little bit more, we'd treat each other better.
Yeah. Amen.
Line. Yeah.
This is good stuff, dude.
Yeah.
Priceless.
Cool. Thank you.
So as we're winding down,
yes.
Okay. Do you have any shout outs? I know you have an amazing staff.
I guess I have to do that. Yeah, I have a shout out for my staff, Caitlin, Ev, and Lindsay. This is something I'm really, really proud of as a business owner. I've had the same staff intact for 2.5 years. No change.
That's awesome.
Practice. 2.5 years. I've been open, 11.5 years. The last 2.5, zero change. So I think that says a lot about how we feel about each other and the culture that I've created in my practice. So shout out to Caitlin, Lindsay, and Ev. And because of that foundation, we're adding a doctor coming up. I just hired a Dr. Dalton, and he'll be starting with us at the end of May. And it's really cool. He grew up on the same street as my wife did, but at different times. And he's from the area, but he's been practicing out of the area, and a lot of unique connections. He went to the same undergrad as I did. He was a college athlete at that university too, which is Indiana University of Pennsylvania. And he also went to the same chiropractic school I did. So it's really fascinating. So I'm really excited to have him joining, and I feel like the shout out is to my team for creating a good foundation. Also shout out to my wife, obviously huge support person, 20 years, we've experienced it all. I think people think a relationship they get into one and they're like, you've changed. Like, the point of having a good partner is to help you change for the better.
Yeah.
And she's helped me do that all along the way. And maybe one day my daughter will see that. I'm at that, I'm like her hero phase. She's 6 years old. She thinks everything I do is like cool and great still. So shout out to her and my little son, Eli. And he was you could say he is a little bit of a surprise baby, but he is named Elliot because my wife's maiden name was Elliot. And so like a nod to that. So it's really been cool. But I really am able to do the things I do because of them. So shout out to them. So
that is awesome. Okay, so how about your social media channels? I know you're active on social media, and I think you even have, is that the meditation classes and stuff that people could sign up for on your site?
Yeah, we have so a couple different things. I have Keystone Specific Chiropractic Center webpage, www.keystone.keystonespecific.com. We're at Keystone Specific YO on Instagram, or Center at Keystone on Instagram. That's where the meditation is. And then I'm at Dr. Bill Moss on Facebook and on Instagram as well. And I have to say, I'm a lot less. My organizations are very, let's say, active on social media.
Yeah.
I'm like, I stay off of it so much. No, I used to be more active, but and then I do have a podcast, and the Evolving Practice podcast. So me and a friend of mine who do some of the same meditation work, chiropractic work, and out of the Boston area, we did a series of episodes, and we're actually starting to jumpstart it again. So that you can listen to a few of our episodes there too.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a great time having you
so
here,
much.
bud. I
Yeah,
really appreciate you coming. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Bill Moss, Keystone Specific Chiropractic Center, Wyomissing, Pennsylvania. If you need him, he's there. He's helped so many people, including myself. And we're just blessed. I'm blessed to know you, bud.
Yeah, appreciate you.
And we're just excited about moving on. It's one of those things where I want to keep seeing you, but it's kind of like hope I see you, hope not see you.
We can do more of this now.
Right. Yeah. But no, you help. I'm going to keep coming to see you. You help me. Cool. But ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching the Pro Tip Podcast, where you're real pros telling real stories and real pro tips to back their success. So I enjoyed it, had fun.
Had a great time.
God bless. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And take care.